Hello and welcome to Fireside Chat number 58, Finding Confidence in Your Career. So I am Mash and I'm joined by co-founder of Codurance, Sandro, and our managing director for Spain, José. The idea
Hello.
for these fireside chats is that we often get together after work and talk about work. And we decided, why don't we record it and see if other people might be interested.
I
The
really like that introduction for the. By the way, we should probably do that
You like
more
that? You
often.
like it?
Yeah.
It just came to me. So yes, so we are stream live as well. So if you want to, today we are streaming live to YouTube. That's normally the best channel to view us on. You can add comments and you can ask her questions, and we'll integrate them into our chats. We try to respond to them as much as we can. And thank you to everyone who does, because it actually really adds to the conversation. We had a bit of a break. Apologies for that. We were scattered to the four winds. Sandro was in US working on our UX expansion initiative for this year. If you do want to find out more about what he got up to there, there's plenty of videos on Instagram and on YouTube on his travels and activities there. I was actually at Malaga. We started our brand new office in Malaga as well. I was attending and speaking at an event with one of our clients, Santander, there as well. So it was lovely to find a thriving community, a software craftsmanship community in Malaga, and our office there is right at the harbor, which is a lovely place as well. So anyway, without further ado, we are going to talk about finding confidence. Confidence is a very important thing in your career, in your work. You can be overconfident, you can be underconfident, and it can affect you in many ways. And there are strategies of understanding how to calibrate that as well. So we thought that would be a good topic for us to talk about today. So who's going to start?
What is the question?
I guess the question is, let's start with why. No,
Yeah.
does
Well,
confidence
the question actually is,
matter?
does
No.
confidence matter?
I think it does, and matter more than what people think. And I tell you why, because like when you want to work with people, for people, you want to feel that you can trust that person, that there is so confidence. I'm not talking about, let's qualify, I'm not talking about overconfidence. I'm talking about confidence in general, right? So someone that is confident when they speak. So I think that someone, when they are confident when they speak, they end up transmitting credibility. They transmit. It's easier to trust someone when they are confident when they are speaking. Because like it's easier to think the other way around. If you are speaking to someone and that person is not confident when they speak, the chances for us to buy their products or really wanting to join that person in a endeavor, in a job, or or building a company or stuff, it's impacted by that lack of confidence, right? So and this is why I think that even so, of course, that is what you are saying, if it's right or wrong. That is all the other qualities, but confidence is really, really important, because it's the first thing that you will gauge in an initial conversation, right? And a confident person will have an advantage in that initial encounter compared to a
Also, it can open
non-confident
you up
person.
to opportunities or make you lose opportunities, right? Because
So
if you're not confident, maybe people will not trust what you're saying as much, or there's elements of leadership there as well.
exactly, applying for other positions, promotions and stuff, because like you need to show that confidence that you can do some things bigger, different, innovative, and it will be much harder to get that trust from someone else
I,
if you don't show that.
I guess the logic is, if you don't believe what you're saying, how do you want me to believe what you're saying? No, it's like, if
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
trust that you can do it, like how should I
or
trust you.
if you are not confident, right? So that you can do that. That's probably how it's going to come across. You might even believe, but you are not confident. You don't show that you confidently can do something. It will be very difficult for someone else to think otherwise.
This is actually an interesting. I know there's a lot of else to talk about, but there's an interesting aspect to confidence. There is how much you feel and how much you show. What you feel and what you show. There's also an important element there, isn't it?
I think so. So mainly, for example, when you are in leadership positions or wanting to be in leadership positions, of course that I believe that we all have fears. Like I think that we all at some point will question um, how capable are we to do certain things. But for example, if you show lack of confidence, it will have a ripple effect on the people near you. And this is not only about work, even inside your families and stuff like that. For example, if I don't show that I'm confident that we can overcome whatever problem we might have, it creates like a ripple effect in the rest of the family that might rely on you to certain things. So even so, and you can, and I think you can show confidence even explicitly saying that you don't know how to deal with something. You can still be confident even knowing, saying like, I don't know exactly how we're going to solve that, but I think that if we just put our heads together, given some time, let's try to figure out what the next steps are. So you can show confidence. People can still follow you even if you don't have the answers or if you don't know how to deal immediately with something.
That's a very good point. That's a very good
Yeah,
point.
it's like something is happening. I don't know exactly what it is, but here's what I'm going to do in order to find out.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
will try this, and then if this doesn't work, I will try this, and then if this doesn't work, and if I go through the list and nothing got me to where I
Mhm.
wanted, don't worry, we will think of something else, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. So
And I
it's
feel like
almost
that's also
it's almost like kind of goes more towards attitude, doesn't it? Like confidence is not necessarily just about having knowledge. It's about having a positive attitude in some cases as well, right? I mean,
yeah.
that's not enough on it just on its own, but it that attitude is important, right?
But it makes a big difference, right? Like it's and it's also a trait that I think is associated with other areas, right? Like someone who's confident, competent, like there's other things that are associated to that kind of um, perception, no, that you are that you're projecting, no, when you're talking
Mm,
to people. And
mm,
another thing that I think I associate, for instance, with confidence would be not freaking out, right? Like I can say things, but you know, especially in a difficult situation, no, the servers are down, whatever, right? Like I don't know, I don't like, but no,
yeah,
cool mind, no, it's like
kind of.
here's how we're gonna approach it, here's what we're gonna do, no? There's a factor of decisiveness as well associated with it, no? It's like, okay, we need to make decisions. Here's what we're gonna try this and this and this and this. If I can't make a decision, that's a problem, especially in a situation where you're, you know um in a difficult
But
situation or an emergency.
I think that these are positive aspects of confidence are over like being confident, yeah. But there are negative aspects to it as well, right? Because you can be confident to the point where
Where you
you
neglect to do
you
your
kind of
due
leading people in the
diligence.
wrong direction. Pardon?
I said where you neglect doing your due diligence, right? You're so confident
Yes.
that you think it's not going to happen, therefore you don't do anything. You don't take any steps to mitigate whatever it is that you
Yeah,
thought
I
was going to
believe that
happen,
then
right?
that is what some people probably will qualify as overconfidence, right? So it's I think, and again, I don't have any uh, proper knowledge about that, but like if I just had to try to define it on spot right now, is like I like what you said, Jose. For me, like the overconfidence thing is when you start not doing the diligence for you to, or not thinking, like not taking some things that you should take into account in order to make the next decision, right? So you become almost reckless in a way, right?
So
And I think that can be
actually,
dangerous.
yeah, like so there's recklessness and there's complacency. Yeah, they kind of relate, I guess. That complacent is more you're too confident that in your own self that you can do this with your eyes closed, and then you close your eyes, right? And recklessness is more related to taking undue risks when you may not need to. So it's
Yeah,
but
they
there
are
is
related but not the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are related but not the same, and I think that both are complicated. The reckless is a bit very complicated. I think it's taking bigger
it can
risks.
also be related to dishonesty, because you know, for example, that you don't have the ability to do it, or maybe you don't have internally, you don't have the confidence, but you want to show that because you're you know, you want to get to a particular position, often leads to people promoted beyond their levels and those kind of things as well, because
The
you
Peter
know,
principle. No,
the
like
Peter principle,
you
exactly.
yeah, you reach the highest level of incompetence, no, within the organization. Like you rise to the position where you can no longer do the job properly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are so we talked about a few problems with overconfidence. What about underconfidence? What kind of
I think
problems
that
lead to underconfidence?
so you know that I was thinking about a few things that I went through in my career, you know. And I remember there was a point, and that was quite early on, that I was thinking that there are enough people in the world. Uh, I wouldn't say that they are they're impeding. They're not cheering. How can I express it in English? But like, there are enough people in the world that might not believe in you, right? That might not believe that you can achieve certain things. So it's not that they're gonna do in purpose. They're not trying to bring you down, but they just might not think that you can do certain things. And then I remember that, and of course I'm talking more about my context, where I came from, and all that kind of shit. But I remember at some point thinking like, I cannot be my worst enemy. So you see what I'm saying? And I think that when you have underconfidence, you become your own block. And we already have enough blocks in the world, you know. So it's already difficult to achieve things, and to and if you become your own block, then it's a problem. And I had to understand that very quickly, you know. It's like, whatever happens, I need to push myself up. I cannot be the drag to myself.
Yeah.
And I was relating that to, you know, like, I don't want to open, maybe it's too early. I've been thinking a lot recently in mental health, which is a topic that I normally didn't like at the beginning, but I've been thinking more and more about that. And I think I'm coming to a conclusion far more holistic than normally is applied to. And for example, I'm relating the lack of confidence, or to almost like, I had to find mental strength to fight underconfidence. See what I'm saying? So you need to be quite strong, mentally strong, to overcome problems and to push yourself up, not to be beaten down by your environment, or every time that you cannot do certain things, or you. So and I think that this is part of the mental health, is also being able to create that inner strength, you know. And I think that, sorry, answer your question, I think that,
Yeah, because it's a bit like when you're lacking that, you're kind of self-sabotaging, right? Like you are. It's like, no, I'm not gonna ask. No, the typical example. No, if you ask
yeah,
and you don't get it, but if you don't ask, you never get it, right? So like by default, you're already not doing no thing. So and a lot of the times it comes from that. No, uncertainty and dealing with that, no?
Yeah, self
China's being and social anxiety, those things play into that, right?
Yeah.
totally.
It can induce social anxiety, but it can, underconfidence, social anxiety can be a cause of it as well, right? It's
Yeah,
almost like
because
a
I've
vicious
been
circle.
equating some of the, like when you have physical health, and for example, I cannot run a marathon today. Well, I cannot run 100 meters right now, right? So, so there are a lot of things that I like to do that I'm not capable because I'm not physically uh, healthy, right? So, well, I'm not an athlete. Let's put it this way. It's not that I'm unhealthy, but like, so, and I think that mental health, if you try to use a similar analogy, so there are a lot of things that we might not be able to do, and we need to find ways to work out and to develop those. This is what again, I don't have any psychological background to be saying this. This is just what works for me, right? So that's what I'm sharing here. But find ways where I can cope with certain things that I either anxiety or I'm not so confident that I can achieve something. And so like I need to find a way for my brain to say, no, man, you need to overcome this, So see what I'm saying? And then make your mental health, I don't know, like find that strength, mental strength to overcome.
I like this idea of exercising your mind in order to be able to deal with these situations. Yeah, that I like that comparison that you did. No, I cannot run. Yeah, but in order to run it, like a lot of people are healthy and they are not able to run it, right? Like in order to run it, you need to practice, right?
Exercise, go to
Now
the
you
gym,
need to exercise and build the
yeah,
muscle,
whatever.
etc., etc. And I think that is also part of that is also part, like you can build your confidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
And I remember like I having this conversation like a very long time ago in when I was in uni. We were talking about some guys that were really good. I did uh, some time in math. It almost sounds like prison, like I did some time. And there were guys that were really they were geniuses. Yeah, there were other guys that were very intelligent, but they were very applied. You know, and I remember talking to this friend of mine. We were discussing like what makes them so confident, no, in a sense, like when they approach new topics or whatever, like it's like they and a lot of it comes from past experience, right? I did well on this, then I build on that success. Now, if it went well now, the next time, why wouldn't it go well again, right? And this kind of thing. And when you have enough of those experiences, right, like you kind of have a lot in the bank, so you can take bigger risks and bigger challenges, no. There is two ways that I feel like that's possible to be built. Now, one is start with smaller challenges that you can take on and build on top of. No, again, this is the equivalent of if I want to, if part of my career development is I don't know, want to become a speaker or whatever. I know that I'm going to be doing certain things, right? So maybe I'll start doing something small. Maybe I'll record myself. Maybe I will do a lunch and learn 15 minutes, like a lightning talk. Maybe I will, no, and then you build on top of that. Maybe I go and I study in Toastmasters, no, a little bit, see other people talk, get some tips somehow to, and you build on top of that. So there is the practice of that, no, and building on top of the challenge. And then there's another aspect which I think is interesting too, which is the visualization of things, right? You can run scenarios. There's for your mind, there's no difference between what you're imagining and what you experience,
Right.
right? Like if you imagine a thing in your memory, right? This is what I'm trying to say. It's not like it's not the same process, but in your memory, right, which is what we're talking about, it's kind of like my past experience is helping me, grow. No, um, there isn't really a lot of difference, right? So if you are able to visualize and go through the scenarios and go through the thing where you're being successful at what you're trying to accomplish, that can also help you a lot, and not necessarily go through all the. No, you can fast track some things, right? And this is something that I do. No, it's like So how would I do this? How would I, and I kind of iterate in my
Exercise.
mind, no, without having done it, so that it kind of prepares me towards, what I can find, and this kind of stuff. And that preparation and that visualization, I think, helps a lot.
I think that there is also an element of being being brave, or kind of putting yourself out there, right? Because often, and it's not easy for sure, but especially things that you don't excel at, it's very difficult to then put yourself out there, and then that in itself is a vicious circle, because the more you retreat from a situation, the less confidence that you're going to have in it, and the less skill to kind of prevail. uh, and I remember the first time I ever did a talk, it was at university, and I froze. I was completely, that lack of confidence got to me so bad that I couldn't even speak, and I left the stage without saying a single word, and that kind of got to me quite badly. But over time, kind of speaking at smaller events, speaking about certain topics and it slowly you build the confidence. I'm at a point now where I do talks in front of bigger audiences, but I still have a lot of fear behind it. But I think that's what I mean by, you need to kind of, like, even overcoming your fears is a kind of a skill that you need to keep practicing. You need to, the things that you're not comfortable with, you should, that should be a trigger to say, well, I'm not comfortable with that, so I'm definitely going to try it, or I'm going to try it in safer positions, and not always kind of shy away from things that you find uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah. Like as you both were talking, I found like three different topics in here. So at the beginning, at the very beginning, when we were talking about the practice and running 100 meters and stuff and being healthy, I think that I've been thinking, like, maybe there is a distinction between being healthy and being fit. So bear with me on that this one, right? So let's say I consider myself physically healthy, but I don't consider myself fit. Fit for what? To run 100 meters, to run a full game of basketball, 5 versus 5, But I'm not sick, right? So I'm healthy. I'm just not fit. And I wonder if there is something related to mental health as well. So, for example, there is an inner condition that you being healthy, right? Because if you are not healthy, for example, if I'm not physically healthy, I certainly cannot do a lot of things. If I'm healthy, I can do all the normal things, the day-to-day things, but some more extreme things I might not be able to do, which I need to be fit to do them. Yeah. And fit to a certain degree, right? One thing is to run in my park, another thing should be a professional athlete. Yeah. So maybe there is something also related to that, where there is the normal mental health condition that you need to be good, in a good space with yourself. But then there is the fitness for you to do certain types of jobs, or to be done. For example, you mentioned, Mash, speaking in public. You might not be fit to do that at the beginning, because it might be something that might be difficult for you because you haven't done. But that doesn't mean that you have a mental health problem. See what I'm saying? But if you do have a mental health problem, then you certainly will not be able to speak, right?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So, and this distinction for me is becoming interesting, because if we focus, like, for example, we need to be healthy mentally and physically, and then we can compartmentalize the degree of fitness that we need to have to do certain specific things. So then your problem becomes smaller. Instead of saying, hey, I'm not confident, or I'm useless. That's what I would say, that I would qualify the more unhealthy thing. We would compartmentalize, look, I don't think I feel well. I would love to be giving, I don't know, talks in front of people. That's just an example that I'm just picking. So, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. Or I would love to be leading a team, and I don't feel comfortable doing that. Or I would love to be doing or have my own company. So now you are compartmentalized and say, okay, I'm not mentally fit for that, but it's easier to rationalize what would be the steps for us to be mentally fit for that.
And you can dig into it as well, because you can say, okay, I'm not comfortable, but what am I not comfortable with? Am I
And
not comfortable, talking in public? Is it I don't like to be the center of attention? Is it like, what is it that I don't feel comfortable in? And then I can zero in on that and deal with it. No, that's a bit.
yeah,
Mhm.
that
I
was
think.
one. Yeah, no, one.
Sorry, go
Sorry.
on, go on,
No,
go
no,
on.
no,
I was
no.
gonna, no, I was just talking about. Someone said that it's people around us also help us in that kind of general level of confidence, and even bigger level, because that reminds me of the community, the London Software Craftsmanship community, and certain conferences that we used to attend as well, where people were very, very encouraging. It was a very friendly crowd. So if you, for example, if you
And
struggle
encouraging
to
and
speak,
yeah.
yeah, exactly, if you struggle to speak in a team setting, if you struggle to bring your ideas forward, you'd have a very friendly, very easygoing crowd who were helping you. And even with talks that could like offer to do talks with you like as a pair, so that you can start building that confidence. And it's certainly true that the environment that you surround yourself in, whether work or it's colleagues or communities, family, they can help you with gaining confidence in certain areas.
And they can hinder as well, the same way that
They
they
can hinder.
can uh, uh, have a positive effect, they can have a negative
Mhm.
effect as well, right? Like,
Mhm.
people are undermining that confidence all the time, then it is an issue, right? And I, again, every situation is different, but a lot of this you can look for, right? Like, you can create those environments. I'm not saying it's always going to be happening, right? Like, every situation is different, no? But if you're finding friends, quote, no, quote, that are undermining your, no, your confidence all the time, maybe you don't want to be around those friends,
So,
right?
so but
And
this
stuff
is the
like that.
thing.
So there's some agency as well
Gaslighting.
in.
They're gaslighting you.
No, I don't know, but it is like that. No, it
Yeah.
is. If you have coworkers that are constantly, well, maybe you
But but,
might
but,
need a
so,
different
but here's the
context. No,
thing,
deal
right?
with it.
So, because I would agree with that, and of course, like, I don't want to go to extreme cases because we know how
Yeah, no, it's everyone's
extreme,
life is, yeah. You
exactly,
can
extreme
yeah, yeah.
personal situations or lives can completely destroy a life. So I don't
Yeah,
want to
we
go there, right? So
yeah,
because I think we all understand that. But let's talk more about, I don't know, people that normally, again, they are healthy, they didn't have like a trauma, let's say people that didn't have traumatic experiences, right? So let's
yeah.
keep it at that, right? So if we keep at that, uh, I think that I'll go back to the mental strength that I was discussing before, because like, yes, I totally agree that your environment has an impact on you, but how big of that impact is controlled by you. So for example, when you are quite strong mentally, that impact will have an influence on you, will certainly throw things at you that you need to react to them, but you need to be able to be strong enough not to be, for example, you go to a meeting, everyone treats you well, you go home happy, and so that's the best thing ever in the world because someone was nice to me. You go to some place that people have different opinions and they express it in a more aggressive way, you go back thinking that the world is against you. So see what I'm saying? So we also, there is a point where you need to also develop that's inner strength,
Or a
that
thicker
you're not
skin.
so,
It's a
huh?
it's a philosophy
A thick skin.
thing. Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's a philosophical attitude towards life as well, right? Like, we were talking about being stoic, no, and like, I can control how I deal with things, or more on the zen side of things, like balancing out, and like, live the way, no, the moment the way that it is right now, no, like, without the judgment, without the, no, or more on the Nietzsche, you are human things, like shit is gonna happen to you. It's part of the process, you know. Like what you do is you build on top of that, the difficulties, no, that you're having to deal with, and that's what's gonna create character. And what you need to look for is how that is basically enriching your experience and enriching you, but it's still, you're still going through shit, right?
Sure, but even across them all, like from the Stoic to Zen to Nietzsche, you are still deciding how you're going to deal with it. You might have a different perspective in how to address those things, right? But you are still quite in control. How do you want to deal with it? So I always struggle. Again, I totally agree with the comments on the chat and everything else, but I always find a dangerous line when you start pushing problems.
Taking agency. No, it's like basically I don't have any agency.
So,
it's an external thing that is
exactly the world is doing that to me, right? So, and this is a thing that is dangerous because you start losing control. Like I think that being strong,
become a victim. No, you become a victim.
So, exactly. So being mentally strong means like I will need to deal with everything else. I can choose my philosophy, if you like, in how I deal with that, but I'm still gonna deal with that, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this is quite important. So I was telling my daughter the other day. My daughter is a teenager, or almost a teenager now, and so like the most important thing, you need to like yourself, right? So you need to make sure that you do things because you like yourself. You are who you are. You will deal with a lot of nice and bad people, but ultimately you cannot be your own enemy, right? So this is, I think, that is quite important.
So something closely related, maybe moving on the conversation a bit, closely related to this imposter syndrome that often people often talk about. I must admit, I hear about it a lot, but I hadn't done much research on it. I just read the wiki page today just to kind of find out a bit more. And as always, there's more to that than meets the eye. So, Sandro, I think you did a bit of a wiki page research as well.
Yes. So my very superficial understanding.
You're on mute, I think.
Am I?
No. I can
hear
you.
No. Then I can't hear you, but that's okay. Carry on.
No. Can you hear me now or not?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hear you.
It might be. Can you hear José, Mash?
Yeah.
José, say something.
Can you hear me?
Carry on, and I'll fix it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So my understanding, my superficial understanding, is that the imposter syndrome is when someone really feels that they are not. It's not only they're not up to the job or stuff, but most importantly, it's a more traumatic thing. They feel Javier saying that he can hear us all. So that the person feels that not only they are not able to do certain jobs or not at the level that they should be, but they feel they are worried that they are going to be found out, that someone will see that they are an imposter, that they should not be at that position. And this is really, this is not just about not being some confidence.
It's not about whether I have the
situation.
It's not whether I have the skills that is required or the level required to do the thing. No, it's about what if they know, right? Like someday someone's gonna come and find out and say, what is this guy doing here?
That I'm not good enough to be here, or I'm not capable of doing certain things. Like, and sometimes they are. It's just like that condition, that thing in their mind that they feel that, and this is different from not being confident. This is what I was briefly discussing with Mash just before we hit the record button. The one thing is, for example, you can still say like, look, I don't know how to do that, and we can do that with confidence. But the imposter syndrome is like, you feel that people will find out that you are an imposter, and this is really bad. And this is totally in their head. This is not the environment, I think. It's more like in their head, from what I understand, because it's different from pressure from a manager. Mm-hmm. It might cause that a bit, but it's more on people's head.
Yeah, I was
from what
actually
I'm
finding it. I was finding it quite intriguing. I hadn't known that being a perfectionist can lead to imposter syndrome. So where basically um, your own internal idea of what a good job is so or level is so high that you're unable to achieve it, and then you consider yourself imposter or someone who shouldn't be doing this, where
So
you can
basically, you're doing that
actually
to yourself. You set the bar too high in a way that you cannot succeed, right? Is that
yes,
kind of
yeah,
you are
exactly.
constantly failing and
That,
failing miserably?
yeah,
And you're failing all the time because every time that you manage to reach that thing, there's always, it can always be better. No, so the bar is also moving.
But see,
yeah,
I used exactly that in a previous fireside chat as a good thing
a
because, like, for
pursuit
example,
of
I
excellence.
like not a perfectionist, but keeps moving the bar, right?
Excellence, I mean, pursuit of
Which is
excellence.
different from being a perfectionist, right? So
Yeah,
it's using that like I want to do things better is different from I would like to do things perfectly, right? So I
yeah,
think that there is a significant difference in there. So if you use that bar to say, hey, I want to do better, I want to be a better, not only professional, but a better whatever family person or whatever else, right? So it might be a very healthy thing, but as soon as you say, I want to be a perfect, and you push that bar miles away, that I can see. I didn't know that mesh either, but I can see that how can play with
it's
the imposter syndrome.
but I mean it's even related to what you kind of like. We all always talk about pursuit of excellence, right? It's one of our core values as well, and it's related to what you kind of what's the bare minimum standard or what's above that standard. So achieving the bare minimum and above that, and thinking that you've done a job well, but always asking yourself, could it be improved and how could it be improved? That is not a criticism on what you did, but it's an understanding that with experience doing things often you can improve, and that having that attitude towards improvement is different from like I failed and I need to improve, right? And I think
Yeah.
this is what a perfectionist is, that you consider yourself a failure, that you need to improve, and that's different
So to
from
have this ideal, this impossible ideal that can never be achieved, and while you are not
yeah,
even close, you are a failure, and that is really bad.
yeah,
There's this the First Law trilogy, right? Like the Joe Abercrombie
Uh-huh.
thing.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was it called? Logan Nine Fingers and all
Yeah.
that. So he has a quote that is along the lines of doing better next time. That's what life is about. Right, so
yeah,
it's kind of like you just do it, and then if as long as next time you're kind of improving,
Mhm.
that's it, right? So, and I think
yeah.
that that's a good approach in general, right? Like it's not about doing a shoddy job. It's not a like you try to do your best, no, and that's it. Like next time, just try to improve, no, against yourself. That's
This
kind of
in
the
in a team situation like we have, imposter syndrome can also come from comparison, right? There is
True.
where you're in a team, and you're a bit more junior, maybe you don't know this particular area well, you lack experience, and maybe there are other people in the team that are better or you think are better, right? And I think dealing with that from the point of view of there will be people, always be people who are better than me, and it's an opportunity to learn from them rather than to kind of bring it towards myself and think that I'm not good enough to be in that team. I think
yeah,
this
and I
kind
need
of
I need to
can
perform
often,
at that level also. No, it's kind of like
yeah,
the comparison. It's not like using that to inspire, which we also talked about, I think, in another episode. No, using that to kind of like, oh, okay, so there's more that I could do. No, like this. I wish I could do that, and let me work a bit more. No, on my thing versus I need to perform at that level today. No, because that's like the best that it can be. No, so that's where I need to be. And the difference is like you're comparing not against yourself, you're comparing against someone else that maybe has been doing that for 20 years, no, and you just recently joined the field or whatever, right? So that is also quite dangerous, no, in a sense.
But I was thinking, for example, again, back to the mental strength. I would use that. For me, like part of building that mental strength is not. I'm trying to say that in a good sense. I don't know exactly how to put that, to phrase that well. But what I'm trying to say is like not care too much about what people think about you, and that's what I mean. Strength. But I'm trying to say that in a nice way, not in a provocative way. I'm not saying like I'll give the two fingers to the rest of the world. That's not what I mean by this. You know, it's almost like, for example, you know what? Like I am what I am, and I am what I am with my skills, with my job and stuff. And you know what? There is all those people that I work with, and they are quite good. I feel that I don't contribute to the same level. So the mental strength in here is to say, you know what? What if I told them that and say, look, love being here, look, really like what you guys, I feel that I'm not contributing much. I need to learn a lot. Is there a way to help me? So you see what I'm saying? And this needs a strength in order to do that, massive. But if you are able to have that strength, and for example, not say, what if they feel that I'm the most inexperienced person here? So what? Let me put that you know, like that.
Let me wear that hat.
What's that?
Let me wear that hat.
Yes, exactly. Let me wear that hat. Because that's the strength, you know. It's not that you don't care about what they think, but you are just saying, look, you know what, if that's how I perceive, I will wear that. And I will benefit from that and make sure that other people can benefit from that as well. Mm-hmm. But you need an inner strength that is massive. And if we are able to build that, so I mean, if you are always able to say, look, I'm confident in myself and I can place myself in whichever, if I think that I can help other people, I will help. If I think that I'm not at the same level, what can I do to get to that level, including speaking to them? Because then the problem goes away in a way. Well, this is, of course, this is how I see the world.
I think sometimes it's difficult to wear that hat, especially, for example, in situations where you've just joined a team, right? And you don't even know what you're earning versus what the others are earning, and you don't know level. You know, sometimes, or you know, you're trying to impress. You just arrived, and you don't want to kind of expose yourself. Well, that's what you may think is being a bit useless, you know, or that's what you may be thinking. And I think sometimes it is difficult to wear that hat, especially when you are in a new environment, or in an organization that doesn't deal with that well, in the sense that, you know, if you kind of expose that you don't know something, then you're kind of labeled as someone who is junior or lacking experience and could hurt your career by exposing certain. I mean, there are certain organizations that would do that, right? That would punish you for what you don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I get that. But again, like it depends on really how you see the world, because then we can go back to the I'm a failure kind of thing, you know. So because one thing is to say, look, I don't have a specific skill, right? I joined the team, and there are one out of many, or a few out of many skills that I need to have to contribute that I might not have or might not be on par with other people in the team. But then the way to cope with that and say, look, but I know that there are many things that I know as well that I could contribute. And also, every single day, I need to do something about it. I cannot just say, hey, I don't know this stuff and someone can help me. And I will only learn when someone is helping me. See what I'm saying? So it's taking that ownership and say, look, okay, there are loads of things that I don't know. And I'm going to I'm going to spend a few weekends. I'm going to try to figure out how I get that knowledge. But when people see that you're putting the effort and you can acquire that quickly, it helps. But this is, again, it's the inner strength, you know, that you have, and say, look, I know that I don't know certain things. And Jose, you mentioned like something about practice and preparation and questions that you ask to yourself. It's, look, this is my situation. What can I do about that? So, Mesh, I'll go back to you, but this is another area that I would like to explore.
Sorry, go on.
No, it's just that there is an aspect that you touched on there, which is the labels. And going back to the topic of, the context and all that, and labels are pretty much that, they're part of that context, right? Like when you said that someone is labeled as a junior, or whatever, those are kind of self-limiting. Okay, so now you're in this box, which means junior, and people attach some meaning to that. Therefore, they start treating you in a specific way. And I feel like that's also part of the issue there sometimes, that they buy into that, typification, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that is a problem on its own, right? Like, okay, so what does that mean? That because I am less experienced, maybe I have 1-2 years, whatever, I just finished my boot camp, whatever, right? That means I cannot talk about my experience, and I cannot, I don't know, teach other people the stuff that I know, or the stuff that, because those things in fact help you develop, right?
Yeah.
Because when you finish your boot camp and then you get called to teach on your boot camp, you better know what you're talking about, no? So then you go and you adopt the knowledge, not to a level that maybe before you didn't have, right? And when you have to explain things to people, the same, and so on and so forth. So using those as a way to kind of keep people away from certain contexts, or certain experiences that actually are beneficial to them, I think it's a mistake, right? And this is why, for instance, when we do the software crafters event, we always have space for people who are new speakers. Like we people send in their call for papers, etc., but we always look for at least some talks that are completely new, like they've never done a talk before, because it's part of nurturing the community and giving people that opportunity, because otherwise it's just the same people talking all the time. It's just because they already have the experience, they do it very well or whatever, right? And that's it. And I think as someone, let's say, that joined recently the industry, or still feel like they have something to prove to themselves or whatever, like finding those contexts where they push or challenge themselves, I think is a very good way of building up that confidence and building up that experience at the same time.
Yeah. Also, I think in situations you need to, like, especially going back to the imposter syndrome, you need to kind of stop comparing yourself to others as well. It's not always a healthy thing. So what if someone's a bit better and someone's like, are you in yourself doing a good job? Are you, like, look at your roles and responsibilities, look at what you're meant to be doing, and are you achieving it, right? And so, like, stop comparing yourself, I think, is also one of the, when I first learned that was, I was working for a consultancy, only my first year in a consultancy. And I went to a civil service client, and there were people there, with gray hair, and they were around this table, and I was meant to be one of the consultants. And even my peers were talking, and they were all chatting, and I was like thinking, I don't know, I can't understand what they are saying. I can't really follow the thread. I don't know what topics, and things are changing quite so on, and everyone seems to know what to say next. And then after a few months at the job, I realized that they were all making it up. They were all talking about it. So after that, this like served me so well, because then I took this view and said, like, okay, if I'm sat in a meeting and I don't know what they're talking about, it's not me, it's them. They're talking about we're all making it up, and that's the beauty of it. That's the truth of it.
No, but there is one thing that, like, was I think that you brought that up earlier, and I think that is related to I think that Dr. Flamerock on the chat as well. So you were asking, let me just go back to the history. How do you grow or harvest your inner confidence? Right. So there is one thing that Jose mentioned, but I think that is quite cool. You know, that you learn, for example, every time you are in a situation, if you are able to stop and say, look, you know what, that is a situation. Before you start calling yourself names, saying that you are not capable or whatever, that you are a failure, all that kind of stuff, you are an imposter, before you start going that direction. So like, okay, first of all, try to coldly, try to do an assessment of the situation. So what are the problems here, right? How am I feeling? What is around me? What's going on? What I'm trying to achieve? And you start asking to yourself a set of questions. I remember, I think I even mentioned in a previous episode, and I mentioned that to Mesh multiple times, like in situations when I had to face in our company, difficult situations, like we have 10 years of history in our company that I had to deal with. Mesh came to me and said, Sandro, think about what is the best outcome that you can have. So this is one question that this was for me very insightful. It sounds very simple when you mention that, but as you get used to ask yourself, okay, so this is a situation, what is the best outcome that I want to achieve? Or what would I like to do? What can I do within the constraints that I have? What is the next decision that I can make? So just doing that already allows you to step back, not call anyone, including yourself, names, and say, like, this is the best I can do right now. And you learn how to live like that. With that, it becomes easier in a way. And you are gradually building your confidence because you start learning to, given a situation, what can I do about that? What is my next step? If you don't know enough, what is this next small step that I can make? And that's what you were saying, Jose. So that I can do about it. So this is one, even like way of seeing life, you know, like and the other thing is more pragmatic. And when you compartmentalize, I want to be able to be giving talks in front of people, be in a leadership position and stuff. So that is very well defined. So you have a goal and you feel that you are a bit blocked. And it's like, okay, what are the steps to that? And you start creating a strategy and you go at your own pace, you know, as we discussed, giving a talk in front of loads of people. Start with giving one to your teammates, you know, like for 15 minutes. Start small and build up. So I think that those things, they are very, very small things that can help you to build confidence gradually, you know, without a dramatic change.
So we talked about imposter syndrome. Maybe we should talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect as well. No,
Mhm.
because it's kind of like, okay, I am confident, no, but I'm at a place where I don't even know that I am not qualified. No, so my confidence is kind of unjustified.
We
No,
often see, like especially in software development, the Dunning-Kruger effect, unfortunately, is more common than the imposter syndrome, or
I
at
think
least the
so.
way we see it. Yeah. So yeah, I guess the way to describe that is that, you know, I mean, this is based on, again, based on a bit of Wikipedia reading. This is based on the research done by these two guys. I think they were guys, and
Yeah.
uh, and they have like they've kind of, and I think there's been more research after that as well that leads to the conclusion that people with lack of knowledge or experience in a particular thing often overestimate their abilities within that thing. So it's not kind of a general thing, as you were saying as well, Sandro.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
more
about
related
intelligence, it's more about a specific task or activity that they need to perform.
or knowledge or skill,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And it often happens, like, you know, where you see people with a lot of like the use of certain practices, technical practices, frameworks, ways of working, even processes, and so on. And you get these evangelists coming at you. They quite they haven't done it well, or they have never even tried it, or maybe have very little experience, but they think that this is the gospel, right? Why aren't you doing Scrum the way that it says in the book, or why are you not doing everything test driven, or why are you doing test driven? They have these very strong convictions on things that are actually not very clear at all, but they have this very kind of this magical clarity about it, and you often see that. And I guess that's the Dunning-Kruger effect speaking. And the opposite is also there, is that as you start understanding more, you start realizing how much you don't understand. And that kind of goes back to the confidence, that you start actually losing confidence, not just as you are junior, but you start losing confidence when you become quite experienced, and you start realizing, you fail too many times to have any confidence in yourself, but you have more experience, more knowledge, and maybe better probability to succeed in certain things than people with more confidence. So that's I guess that's the Dunning-Kruger effect, right?
Yeah.
No, and also there's this aspect that the more experience you gain, you tend to think that that everyone else knows what you know, right? So you're kind of normalizing what you know, but that's not necessarily true, especially the more experience you have, right? So this is the thing. So then you start thinking things like, well, but this is like, yeah, why is it worth it? Why should I, this is probably, they already know this, right? And that kind of thing, which is also kind of shipping against that confidence that we were talking about. But it's just because you're assuming that everyone else knows what you know, kind of.
Mm.
No, or they're being exposed to the same things. Therefore, there's nothing else that you can add, right? And
there is this normalization. I have it's not exactly what you said, but there is an interesting story. I have this friend, Mesh met him. So he was from Brazil. So we brought him over to work in the UK with us and stuff. So he arrived in the UK saying, hey, I don't speak English well. So my English is shit and I cannot communicate and stuff. He lived in the UK for almost 3 years, if I'm not wrong. He left the UK still thinking that his English was bad. Right. So what he could not see is that when he arrived, he would struggle to do the basic things, right? To get directions on streets or order a burger in McDonald's. When he left, he said, look, I still struggle to talk about politics or psychology. See what I'm saying? Or world politics or whatever else. So he was like progressing, but he could not see the progression. He only saw like the blocks. And but he was always thinking that people knew far better than him, and he just could not see how far he had progressed with the English language. So this is an interesting thing as well, because as you learn more, you feel that, like for us, we as we learn, or even worse, as we master a thing, we just forget how difficult it was to get to that level, that we end up trivializing that. Is that the word?
Trivializing.
Trivializing that. So you know what, and everyone knows that. So no, it took like you 5 years to learn that thing, or even more, and now you think that everyone knows. No, they don't, right? So
this is the thing, like, how do you then get to the point where you can calibrate the level of confidence to not too low that that it's impeding you and you may even take you towards imposter syndrome, and not too high that it takes you to kind of one aspect of Dunning-Kruger effect, right? That you are overconfident, reckless maybe, or committing to things, or seeing certainty where there isn't.
This is a very difficult question to answer, because that calibration might be completely different from people to people, depending on where you are coming from, right? So no, go on. I'm still thinking about that.
I can tell you what my first thought was. it depends. There you go. I haven't been saying that for I haven't been saying that word for a few episodes now. But no, but it depends on how I think that I would feel about the failure. In other words, is kind of like how much risk is there in it for me personally. I think that's one way of putting it. Is it something that I know that I'm gonna be fine with? No, it doesn't work out well. It's fine. No, if it's like shit, I really don't. It's a very important thing for me. Even it may not, for me, it may not be important to other people or whatever. I think that's it. Yeah, and with experience as well, you tend to understand as well that things that's the one thing is perceived risk, no, and the other one is real risk. Like that distinction is like, oh, this could be a great, but okay, when you start looking at it, no, and say, okay, so what could be the outcomes of this, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that is the way that I kind of, it's like, is it something? No, I don't know, I go to a conference, no, and I give a talk, and it sucks. I wish people were looking for my talks. Nobody's gonna care, right? Like nobody's gonna see it, whatever, right? That's like if I don't know if you put it on a different level. No, let's say that let's say that I'm Sandro Mancuso, no, who does have an audience. He actually, there are more people that are looking to voice it. Then making a mistake is it has more impact. So
I shouldn't worry about my talks because no one's listening anyway. You don't be watching anyway.
No, but you understand what I mean. But you understand what I mean, right? It's a matter of how do I feel about if this goes wrong, or if I expose myself and this goes wrong, yeah. Would I be okay with that? How bad would I feel about this, and for how long? Right? Is this something that I'm going to regret the rest of my life? Exactly. Is this something that I'm going to regret the rest of my life, or is it something that I'll forget?
But see the way that, again, I don't know how to answer the question of the calibration mesh, because like the calibration might also be from an external perspective as well, not only from your, because I don't think that we can be objective enough to do the calibration. See what I'm saying? We can be objective in how we feel about our actions, right? And how the reaction of the external world or the surroundings, how we react to them as well. So, but in terms,
sorry, go on. You finish.
No, I'll just say, for example, the examples that you were giving, like, for example, I really try not to care. And again, it's not to care like that. I don't care about fuck the world. It's not. I'm not saying that, but I'm more like worried about how I'm gonna feel about it. So for me, the way I feel about something is more important than how other people will feel about what I've done. Of course that I get that feedback. Of course that for example, if I did something that was not well received, that will serve as a feedback mechanism that I will internalize and then decide what I'm going to do about that. Because like certain opinions of certain people matters far more than others as well. See what I'm saying? And also depending on where I put the bar.
Yeah, this is the important point. This is the important point, because Javier is saying, and I think he said my calibration came with a mentee. And I think this is a really important point. Having people that you trust, both at the mentor level, like people with more experience who've kind of hit a few more, had a few more failures than you've had and have tempered their own knowledge and skills and experiences, and also people with less experience than you are, and so on. I think both can help you calibrate, because these are people you trust. These are people that trust you. You have a good relationship with, but it could also be within your team, especially the people you are close to. They can help you calibrate because they can give you feedback without that you can trust. but they're not just giving you feedback, they're helping you, right? If they think that you're overconfident, then they're thinking, okay, maybe you need to think a bit more around this thing because your reasoning is a bit simplistic. But at the same time, if you kind of going towards the imposter syndrome, and there are people there that are kind of coming up to where you are, and also helping them helps you understand where you are as well within things, so that can also help you kind of on the other side. I think that's one area, but there is another area as well, which is, I think we should all, as professionals, is the skill of keeping an open mind and kind of critical thinking and reasoning. These are skills that we often not taught, and often right at the beginning, especially when we have the Dunning-Kruger kind of like we are confident with everything, is because we haven't really, we don't really exercise critical thinking, we don't exercise reasoning, logical reasoning, all these kind of things. So what happens is that we kind of very simplistic in our conclusions. And if those things are taught, that could also help with understanding your own abilities and your own levels.
Yeah. So as I said, like, I'm very protective of myself. I'm really, I really care about, like, I'm very selective of who I care about. See what I'm saying? Like the kind of opinions, right? Of course, I try to, as much as I can, to read the room and stuff, but I also, like, I refuse to be my worst enemy, right? Even the conference example. Let's say I'm in a big conference and have all those big names in our industry that have been around for a long time, wrote great books and stuff. I position myself like, and say, look, I'm the least experienced and least known person here, least known person here. So I will position myself at that. So I would be happy just to be there. So you see what I'm saying? I would never be in my mind comparing myself or making comparisons that will hurt me. See what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, I'm going to compare to some of the best people in the industry that are miles ahead of me, and then me criticize myself that I'm not at that level. I would never do that, because this will just destroy me. So, like, you know what? Just be happy with what you achieved. You got a spot. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Even if it was the least attended talk in that conference, or you run an event that 2 people came along, just be happy that you are there. See what I'm saying?
So I think this is you speaking about humility. Yeah, you're speaking about humility, and humility actually is another good strategy for kind of alleviating the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's like, because ego plays a lot into thinking that you know everything. Right?
Yeah.
Now that you touch on that, there's a book that I would like to recommend that is called Humble Inquiry by Edgar Chain, and it talks precisely about humility and how, as a leader as well, like you need that humility, because you find yourself in that position where in order to succeed you need someone else to help you succeed, kind of. So that is a humbling, that in itself is humbling. It's like you can't do things on your own, right? So that's good point, and it's lacking a lot. Like we said, it's the humble programmer, let's put it like that, is
maybe that's the next book in the pragmatic series.
And you can be a confident humble and confident.
The humble, confident programmer.
The humble bragger.
Exactly.
Cool.
I think we're around our usual time to finish these things. So
yes, exactly. So any final thoughts?
No, I like the idea that Sandro mentioned of you trying to find your confidence, and you want to mitigate how much others have impact in you. It's not about not listening, but I do follow a similar strategy. Like I think I said this in Carlos Blair's podcast or something like that, where I have a list, right, of people that I'm going to pay attention to. When I have doubts about whether I should, no, I will go and talk to those people, and that these changes. No, maybe people from work, and maybe, but I tend to not go with the first thing. No, with the first reaction, because that gives me some perspective, right? Into okay, so there's people thinking this, but that's what they think. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. No, is that how much? No, do I really want to? Do I really want to get into that? No, is it necessary? No, but when I then go and check with someone in the list, then maybe I'll think about it. And these are people that will tell you things like they are. No, they're not gonna sugarcoat it. They're not gonna. No, that's one aspect. Another aspect. There's you reminded me, Sandro, of a book. It's called "The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck."
It's in my list to read, and I haven't read
I haven't read
yet,
it either,
but
but
it's in my list.
I've seen it a couple of times, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, maybe.
I've actually got it here, but I still haven't. I still haven't managed to read it. Yeah.
So that's another one. No, and overall, it's like try to get exposure to things that will help you grow, and if you are having a problem with that confidence, try to build it from smaller wins, right? And build on top of that, like and visualize those things work for me, at least. And I think it's a good way to to work on it if you want to, basically.
Yeah, for me, this episode had quite a lot of highlights. Like to be difficult to go through all of them, but there is like one thing that is like I will never be my worst enemy. That is never gonna happen, right? This is something I learned very early, and I will always try to find the inner strength, not to allow the environment to beat me up so badly. So I need to have that inner strength in me first of all. That is one thing. Another thing is not everyone's opinion is the same. So there are people that care far more, and they help me to calibrate, right? So I'll calibrate with the people that I care about, how they react to my actions, and so on. There is a thing about never saying that I'm not capable, right? So period. So for example, not generalize that I'm not capable or I'm not good or so on, because like once you do that to yourself as a whole, which is very different to say, I'm not right now fit to do this. So because I compartmentalize, I'm not saying that I am a failure or I'm not capable. I just said, look, I would love to do those things, but I'm not able to do right now because I'm not ready, I'm not fit. So then it allows me to trace a plan. Okay, what would be the best thing if I really want to be able to do that? It makes it much easier for me to cope, because then I can trace a strategy. I can say, okay, I need to do that first and then do that first and take my time, not to put a ridiculous pressure on myself either, So that's again, me not being the worst enemy. And that way of looking at the world, like no problem is too big. Well, if every problem becomes too big, you will always suffer. So then it's like, you know what? Step back. What is the context? What are the limitations? What are the constraints? And most importantly, okay, now that I did an assessment of the situation. What do I want to achieve? What is the best I can do within the context? And be happy with that. Be happy with that. Not criticize myself for things that I cannot control. So I think that those things allows you to build confidence, even when if you don't know what, if you can say to people, look, I don't know exactly what to do or what the answer is, but maybe we can sit down together, trace a plan, or maybe I will do this and that. So those are the things that I found that were quite useful in this episode.
Very good. Very good. So from my point of view, I think, confidence is a very important thing. Both to building your career and to the detriment of your career. Underconfidence and overconfidence both can be bad and good. So if you have underconfidence, it can stop you from, in one way, stop you from putting yourself out there, leading, those kind of things. but it can also be a force towards trying to understand more, gaining more knowledge, and those kind of things. And overconfidence, again, is a double-edged sword. On the kind of minus side, it means that your mind is closed, you're not open to learn, and you kind of may even be lining yourself up to recklessness and failure. On the good side, it is a help and an aid to leading, to getting yourself into new opportunities and that kind of stuff. So you have to calibrate it well and understand the double sides and use the good and kind of protect against the bad side of it. And there are many strategies in building confidence as well. As you talked about, getting doing things small, understanding where you're lacking confidence, getting that base mental health in the right place, whether internally yourself through inner strength or speaking to people and that kind of thing. And there is also calibrating if you're overconfident, helping thinking critically, understanding logical reasoning, but also having people around you that you trust that can give you good feedback. That's it from me. So thank you everyone for listening. A special thanks to the people that asked us many questions and watched it live and improved our conversation in many ways. So as usual, if you're new to this, then please like and subscribe on YouTube, and you'll hear about the next. We speak almost every Tuesday. Sometimes we have a small break, like we did in the past couple of weeks. And yes, all that remains is thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.